Hey, this is Nev Lapwood from Snowboard Addiction. Got an exciting day today, new board day. I am going to show you how I set up a new board and we're going to go up and ride it and test it out. All right, so this board is a brand new Burden Custom 154 regular camber board. Now, I've rode the Burden Custom a lot of times in the past, so I know that I like this board. What do I like about this board? This board is basically a good all-round board for almost anything on the mountain. It is very similar in shape, both directions, so it's very good for riding regular, goofy. It's really good for riding the park. It's a board that a lot of the Burden Pro team choose to ride. Guys like Mikhail Bang, Mikey Renz are all riding this board. I've rode this board a bunch before. I like it. It's if you don't know what you're looking for and you want a board, Burden Custom. It's pretty good. Now, we made a video that showed you about board selection, about designs and shapes. If you want to know that kind of stuff, check out that video. This one today is just going to be me setting it up, showing you how to do your bindings, that kind of stuff. And we're going to go and test this board out. So. Cool. So on the Burden boards, this little package comes on the side. It's important that you don't lose this package because this has your mounting hardware for the board. And what you do with this is you get these rubber tabs, pop the rubber tab out, and slide two of these metal tabs in where that rubber tab was. Rubber tab back in. Once you've done that, you don't have to do that ever again. You just have to do that when you get a brand new board. That's pretty simple. It's pretty easy to do. Pop it out. Two tabs in. All right. So right now we're basically ready to mount bindings. So I actually have two new boards this year. I have what's called the Burden Family Tree Hometown Hero, which is a 156. This is a powder specific board. And I ride a lot of powder. I live in Whistler. We get a lot of good snow up here. There's a lot of power days. I try to ride every good power day I can. This is my board that I'm now using as a go-to powder board, whereas the Burden Custom for me is when it's not a power day. If I'm gonna go up and ride the park, film tutorials, help someone improve their riding, that's the kind of day that I'm just gonna go and ride the Burden Custom, because this is my good all-round board. This one is more of a power shape. My stance is set back a little bit. The tail is a little bit tapered. The nose is a bit bigger. It'll float through power a lot better. If you ride a lot of power and haven't rode a power board, I'd highly recommend checking out power boards. Whereas if most of your riding is groomers and park and stuff, something like a custom is gonna be great. So anyway, that's basically my quiver. I basically ride two boards. I have a general riding board and a power board. I do have a bunch of other boards as well, but 90% of the time I'm riding one of these two boards, okay? And in terms of why my boards are Burden, Burden is a snowboard company. You guys probably all know this. It's the biggest snowboard company in the world. They make really good products. I've rode their stuff for a long time. They've been a supporter of Snowboard Addiction in the past as well. And these days, you know, I can choose to ride what I want to ride, and I'm still choosing to ride Burden. So there's lots of good brands out there. If you don't know what you're looking for, Burden's a good brand. Okay, so I'm going to whip off the bindings off this board and chuck them onto the Custom. Now this would be a lot easier if you had two sets of bindings. I only got one set of bindings this year, so I should pick up another set. Now I want to show you this. This is just a tool from the hardware store, which has got all your different screwdriver heads. This is a tool that Burden makes. And I really like this tool because I can ride with it. I can pop this in my pocket. It's flat. I actually have one of these in my pocket all the time when I'm snowboarding. And more than my own stance, it's actually to help other people. I come across people who I'm teaching on the mountain and I need to make adjustments to their stance. I need to have a tool on me. This is one that I can carry on the mountain. They're fairly affordable. They sell them on the Burden website, and they're a really good tool that have all the stuff that you need to be able to adjust the Burden bindings. So anyway, I'm going to whip off my ones on here. All right, so I've got my bindings off my other board. I'm going to mount bindings to this new board. There's a few different things you need to know. You need to know how wide do you want your stance? What angles do you want your stance to be at? And in terms of the size of your feet, do you want to be close to the toe edge or the heel edge? Do you need to make an adjustment? Okay, I'm going to give you my size and weight just as a reference. I am 5'9" and 160 pounds. So it's hard to give an example that's going to suit everybody. I'm riding a 154 snowboard and my power board is a 156. Now, if you look on the board, on the Burden boards, it'll tell you what the reference stance is. So when I say reference, there's this little thing on the board here. I'll show you, I'll tip it up so you can see it, that says REF, ref. That stands for reference stance. And on this board, it tells me that the reference stance width is 21 inch, okay? Now, 21 inches, I know that personally, I like to ride a 21.5 inch stance. So if I was to mount my bindings at the reference stance and the reference stance and go out 1/4 of an inch on each side from that, that would be the stance that I like, 21.5. Now, you guys have to decide what stance you want. And the only way you can tell that is trial and error over time. Finding, do you like it wider? Do you like it skinnier? That's not this video. I'm just showing you how to mount it. Okay, so I know that I'm going 21.5, and I know that each one of these lines is a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go out reference and 1/4. So in between the line and that, on both sides. So then I'm like, right on the reference stance, 1/4 of an inch out each side, 21.5 inch stance. That's what I like. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to chuck a board on, a binding on, sorry. I found the reference stance, and I'm moving out to 1/4 of an inch out from that reference stance. Doing the same on this. Binding on, find the reference stance, and move out 1/4 of an inch. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my angles. Now, I know my angles. I like to ride at the moment, I'm riding 15 degrees and 15 degrees on my park setup. That's because I'm trying to ride quite a lot of switch. I really like to ride a lot of regular, a lot of switch, so that it keeps my body even. When you do a lot of snowboarding, it's important to develop all those muscles on both sides of your body. So I'm choosing at this stage of my riding to ride 15-15. Again, that'll be your own personal preference. There's a little indicator in here, and as you move the binding back and forth, it will tell you a number. So this is on the I just have to let you guys know, this is called the Burden EST system. The system I'm using right now is only on the Burden boards. If you're on any other type of snowboard, you're using these discs. And the discs are typically in a 3-degree increment. What that means is that every time you move the disc a notch, it moves another 3 degrees. So to get 15 degrees on a snowboard, that would be 5 notches, because 5 times 3 is 15. Now that's how most snowboard brands, the ones using the 4-hole mounting system work, is using those discs with the little notches. The beauty of this EST system is you can really fine tweak. If you've got a specific need that you want it to be at a really weird number, you can get any angle, any stance width you want using this system, which is good. The other cool thing is it's super easy to change and adapt. You've got 2 screws. You can just loosen up those 2 screws and you can move the binding. You can move the angles. You can move the stance width. Makes it really quick and easy. A lot easier to do than the 4-hole mounting system. The main disadvantage with that is that when you tighten your screws down, make sure you lock them down good. If you don't lock them down tight, you could move a little bit while you're riding. You know, especially if you like land a big jump or something. If you don't have your screws tight, it could adjust on you. So that's all I'm saying with EST. Once you find your stance, lock it down. Okay, oh, and the last adjustment I want to make with the binding mounting is that you can move the binding forward and back on the board. And what that really does is it depends on the size of your foot. If you have a really big foot, you're probably going to want to move that binding back as far as you can so that your toes aren't sticking out super far over the board. And likewise, if you have a very small foot, you would move the whole binding forward as much as you can so that you don't have too much weight on the heel edge of your board. Because that's important to know. That's important to know. The size of my foot is a US 9.5. It's a very regular sized foot, so I can pretty much go smack in the middle. So here I am. I'm getting my stance width, I'm getting my 15-degree angle, and I'm going to the middle of the board, which is the red line. And from here, I can lock that binding down. I'm going to do that. I'm going to lock these bindings down on both feet. All right, I now have my bindings on the board. Stance, 21.5 inch wide, just because I know I like that width. Angles, 15-15. And then across the board, I'm pretty much center because of the size of my boot. I'm going to show you guys a couple of the other adjustments you guys can make to your bindings. I'm just going to browse over this stuff really quickly. Basically, you want to customize your binding to match the size of your boot and the size of your foot so that your day snowboarding is the most comfortable it can be. So I want to show you a couple of different things. Now bear in mind I've already done these adjustments on this board, on these bindings. So on your bindings, you have obviously a heel strap and a toe strap. You want these straps to be pulling central on the board. You don't want it to be pulling on the side of your foot. So for example, you don't want this to be pulling on one side or the other. If it pulls central on your boot, it makes it more comfortable. So how you can tell if it's central is how does it feel? Does it feel central? Does it look central? And how you adjust it is these things over here. So these little tabs you can pop up and you can untwist them. You don't even need a tool. You can use a screwdriver as well, but most of the time you can actually just twist those with your fingers and then close that tab and adjust the holes if you need it to be longer or shorter. Okay, the next thing you can do is this footbed here. You can actually pop this footbed up and you can extend it or decrease the size. So this is the smallest one, that's the largest one. I have mine one notch out from the smallest. And then you snap those back in by pushing them down. And that just extends the length of the footbed depending on how big your boot is. Okay, the last part you can adjust is called the high back. And there's two different ways you can adjust the high back. There's one angle which is called the forward lean of the high back. And the forward lean of the high back is adjusted here on the back of the bindings. So there's a little number in here, if you look, it says F1, F2, F3. And on the back here, you'll see a plus and a minus. If you turn this dial towards the plus, you're putting on more forward lean. If you turn it towards the minus, you're putting on less forward lean. Now, forward lean is the angle of the high back. It's how much this high back leans in that direction. So, forward lean is really good for getting you into a good snowboard stance. If you look at me right now, and I'm bending my knees, so my back's up straight, I'm bending my knees, that's like a good snowboard stance. If you have no forward lean at all, you may tend to ride more straight-legged. Straight-legged doesn't absorb bumps very well on the mountain, whereas this position with the knees bent, it absorbs bumps, allows you to ride better, it allows you to use your edges more. That's what forward lean does. Now the other thing on the bindings is there's two screws on the side here. These two screws on the side allow you to modify the angle of the high back. And what I mean by that is that ideally it's quite good if you can get the back of your high back to be in line with the back of the snowboard. That way, when you want to move around on the snowboard, it doesn't restrict you. So if you're going to move into like buttering or pressing or just ollieing, all that kind of stuff, it allows you to move back and forward when the high back is lined up with the back of the board. So that's what you can adjust those screws for. You can loosen one up and the other up, and then you can move it around. In fact, what I'll do is I'll do that right now, because I haven't actually done that on these bindings. So how I did this is I loosen up these two side screws, straighten up the high back with the back of the board, and then I'm going to tighten those two side screws back up. All right, so I now have my board set up, ready to ride. I got my bindings on, I got my stance sorted, I got my bindings customized to the size of my boots. The last thing I'm going to do before I hit the mountain, I'm going to chuck a Snowboard Addiction sticker on the binding just because I've got to represent. So just quickly show you guys a little sticker job. Once you got your board ready, this is the exciting time. We get to go and try it out and see how it rides, which is always an exciting day for a snowboarder when they get a new board. Let's go do it.
Okay, here we are, brand new board, first run. Let's do this, follow me. On your first one on a new board, you want to feel it out. You want to feel, hey, how does this board feel? How do the edges feel? How does the pop feel? So one thing to notice is that a brand new board usually has very sharp edges. Now up in Worcester Blackcomb, we've had a lot of rain the last couple of weeks. So having sharp edges right now is a really good thing. It helps me to grip into that snow and be able to slice through the ice. So buttering the board, I'm like playing around with it now. I'm on the tail and I'm feeling out how's that flex. Now, brand new boards normally feel a bit stiff. I can feel it right now. This board has got some stiffness to it. I like that. The stiffness gives you pop. It means that when you flex the board, it's gonna pop back. So I'm gonna play around and try out a couple of little butters, like a tail slide 270. There's a little side hit coming up over here. Gonna see if we can find a little side hit for a jump. Feel what the flex of this board's like. Here it comes. A little tail grab, side hit tail grab. Riding some switch. Now, gonna get a bit of speed up now. All right. Okay, I'm on my first lap. The board feels good. I've rode Burden Custom before. I know how this feels. It's responding how I would like it to respond. This is that kind of time when you want to have one of these tools on you, or any tool, but this one's just a good one because it goes in your pocket so easily, because you now can feel, oh, did I set up my bindings wrong? Do I need to adjust my stance? First day on a new board is the most important day to have a tool on you to be able to adjust anything you need to. My stance is all dialed in because I know what I like and it feels real good, and let's keep on riding. Okay, we've got some pretty firm conditions. The new sharp edges are pretty good for that. I'm gonna see if I can find little jumps on the side of the run. So, looks like a little one coming up over here. Little jump. Always looking for side hits. Oh, I can see a jump coming up. So watch out for the skier. Looks like there's a bit of a rock in the landing. Woo. Avoiding those early season rocks. Nice flat area here is really good for feeling out some of those butters. Maybe do a couple of nollies. Feel what it's like. I mean, the board's feeling good. It's a good board from a good brand. There's lots of good brands out there, and I'm loving it. One thing that's other thing to notice is that in fact, let me show you this. So on a brand new board, the contact points on a board are from here to here on all four corners. And when I say the contact points, those are the points that are going to be like catching in the snow when you're like landing a 360 or you're landing like a buttering trick or a jibbing trick. Those are the most likely points that are going to catch you up, cause you to fall. Now, most companies have somewhat of a detune on there where they just make it a bit smoother on this edge. I like to take a file and actually round off these edges just from here to here on all four contact points. I'm actually going to do that to this board. I don't have a file with me. I'm going to do it tonight. And what that means is it's just going to make it less catchy. So less likely to catch an edge coming out of a feature or onto a feature or anything like that. It's just something I like to do, personal preference. All right, let's see what else we can find on this board. Let's see if we can find some little side hits or little jumps. Feeling out these edges. It's pretty icy out here, so it's nice to have these sharp edges right now. Ride some switch. The pop feels good. So yeah, first run on this board, really happy with how it feels. Everything I expected in a Burden Custom. And on the very first day on a new board, just take it easy, check out the board, see how it feels. Don't go full out on your first run. After your first run, you can go and hit the park if you're comfortable with that. A few boxes, rails, small jumps, whatever you're feeling comfortable with. And then yeah, that's after that you can start pushing it up. This board feels good, I'm ready to go. This is Nev Lappin from Snowboard Addiction. Our goal is to improve your riding.